Hello and welcome back. So in this video now we're going to do our trunk ports. So we have our access ports on the bottom of our leaf switches, which is fantastic. They're all configured. So what we need to do, we need to set up our trunk ports between our leafs and our spines, and of course we need to set up our trunk port between our two spine switches as well. And it's relatively simple. It follows virtually the same format as doing the access ports. However, what we're going to do is we're going to predetermine on some of the interfaces which VLANs will be allowed to transverse across the trunk, and on others we're going to allow any VLAN to transverse across the trunk. Okay, let's get cracking. So the interfaces on the leaf are respectively XE001 and 002 on all three of the leafs that are heading up to the two spines. So what we'll do, we're going to configure them on the leafs, and then I'll configure the spines off camera so you don't have to watch it being done on 5 devices. 3 is more than sufficient. So let's bring up our command line and let's jump on to leaf 1. Okay, now so what we'll do, let's do our set interface XE 0/0/1 unit 0 family Ethernet switching interface mode, and this time we chose access before. We're now going to choose trunk, and now we're going to do VLAN members, and what we're going to do, we're going to choose all in this for this one. So if we do a question mark here, it's asking you what the actual VLANs, whether we're going to allow just one VLAN across, i.e. customer 1, i.e. customer 2, whether we're going to allow all the VLANs with the all option, or we can set specific VLANs. So for example, if we choose all, that's going to do customer 1, customer 2, and the default VLAN as well, which is there. However, we're not going to be transversing VLAN 1, so we can do, like I said, we can do all if we want, or we can do it in the brackets and specify the actual VLANs that we want in there, and we can specify them via the actual tag of 100 and then 200, or as in the actual VLAN name. So in this one we'll do all. Okay, that's fantastic. Now let's have a little look and do XE002. So set 0/0/2 unit 0 family, family Ethernet switching. Interface mode is going to be trunk, and we're going to do VLAN members, and we'll do our square brackets this time, and we're going to do customer 1 and then do a space, customer 2, and then do our square brackets to close that. Now let's do a commit check. Fantastic. If we just want to actually commit this, but we'll do a show compare first. Okay, so on XE001, because we again have the VLAN members as all, it will transverse VLANs 1, 100 and 200. On XE002, it's only going to do customer 1 and customer 2 VLANs. Okay, let's commit that. Sweet. Okay, let's jump on to leaf 2, and we'll do the same thing with that. So set interface, and we'll do XE 0/0/1 unit 0 family Ethernet switching, interface mode trunk, and we're going to do VLAN members, and we're going to do in our square brackets 100 and then 200, and close the square brackets. And let's do our XE002. Set interface XE 0/0/2 unit 0 family Ethernet switching, interface mode trunk, VLAN members, and we'll just do this as all on this one, and show pipe compare. As we can see now, unlike when we done it on leaf 1, we chose the VLAN members as in the customer name or the VLAN name of customer 1 and customer 2. Here we're putting in the actual tags in the brackets, and of course with XE002 we're just choosing the VLAN members all. Let's do a commit check. Sweet, let's commit that, and let's jump on to leaf 3, and we'll do set interface XE 0/0/ unit 0 family Ethernet switching interface, forgot the F, interface mode trunk, VLAN members, and I'm just going to be lazy now and do all, and I'm going to do an up arrow, and I'm going to scroll back and do the same for XE002, show pipe compare, and there's our config VLAN members. Let's do a commit check. Fantabulous, and let's commit that. Okay, let's validate what interfaces we have on here, and how the VLANs are assigned. So let's do a run VLANs. Fantastic. Okay, so what we can see is we're in the routing instance that we're currently in is the default switch, because we've not changed to any specific routing instances, which we'll come across a little later on. We have the VLAN name, which is our customer 1 and our customer 2 and our default respectively, and we have the VLAN IDs that go along with them, like VLAN 100, VLAN 200, and of course VLAN 1. Now if we have a look at the interfaces, you'll see that for customer 1 on VLAN 100 we have XE001, 002 and 007, and with a little star just means they're connected. If we have a look at customer 2 and VLAN 200, we have XE001, XE002 and XE008. Now because we can see XE001 and 2 in multiple positions, and the same for the default switch, the default VLAN, we know that there are trunk ports, and we know that our access port just by looking there is XE007 and 008. We have another few commands that we can actually run to verify these interfaces as well. So what we can do let's do a run show VLAN interface, and we can give it an actual specify what we want. So let's do XE 0/0/1.0, and as we can see we're getting a little bit of extra information here. We can see that we have three different VLANs that are running over this particular interface. Now if we do this again for 7, which we know is our access port, we see we only have the one VLAN running on this. However, we can take this a step further and actually have a look at the Ethernet switching interfaces. So let's have a look at run show Ethernet switching interface, and now let's specify XE 0/0/7.0. Now as we can see here where it says untagged on the interface there, we know this is an access port, which is absolutely fantabulous. Let's have a little look in just a moment at the trunk ports, but you can see that our current state is forwarding. You can see how many the MAC address limits are on there, and you've got our flags up the top here, as you'll see in things like Cisco and everywhere else, where they have their the legends of what these actual bits mean. So let's have a look at one of our trunk ports. So let's have a look at 1.0. Now you see 1.0, which we know is our trunks. You'll see they're all listed as tagged. So this is how you can tell another way of whether a port is a access port or a trunk port, is by going to the Ethernet switching interface and checking this out. So we can see here on XE001 that we've got the default VLAN, the customer 1 VLAN, the customer 2 VLAN, again showing all of our MAC limits, etc. We can show that our state is in forwarding. This is for like for spanning tree, not that we're running spanning tree yet, but we will have to. And it shows us that these are tagging ports, which means that these are trunks. Now, off camera, I'm going to sit there and I'm going to configure the spines. In the next video, unfortunately, we're going to have a look at spanning tree. This is a layer 2 topology, and this of course is one of the reasons why we moved to IP fabric for our underlay rather than layer 2, because once our servers at the bottom have their IP addresses on there, we're going to get routing loops or switching loops, I should say, across our network, and that's something that we don't want. So we're going to have to implement spanning tree, otherwise we're going to get really no communication from, say, server 1 to server 3 or server 2 to server 6, for argument's sake. Traffic's just going to be bottlenecked, and we'll end up causing ourselves a broadcast storm, and interfaces will end up going down, and that's something we don't actually want. So after I've done the spines, we'll come back in the next video and we're going to sit there and we'll just put a basic spanning tree on there, just so we don't get any loops and we can actually start getting traffic coming from one server to the other. So we'll put spanning tree on, and then we'll add some IP addresses onto our 6 servers at the bottom. So we'll use something like 10.10.10.1, 3 and 5, and 10.10.20.2, 4 and 6, and then we'll see if we can ping within the VLANs themselves to each respective member. Okay, I look forward to seeing you in the next video.